Good morning, Jacob. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Well, I want to congratulate you on your podcast, What's Your Problem? Because what you're giving us is the opportunity to really see the world of business. Because a lot of CEOs and people like that, and even OMs and stuff, it's always been that best kept secret. It's best not that we talk about it.
Yeah, it's true. I've been talking to lots of entrepreneurs and CEOs, and they always have the story they tell of all the successes and all the things that have gone right. But the thing I'm trying to do on this show, What's Your Problem, is get them to talk about the things they haven't figured out yet, the things that are, the problems they're trying to solve.
Well, yeah. How about a car that that you want to train it to think like a human being? I love that idea, but it also scares the junk out of me because if something goes wrong with that computer, then my car is screwed up.
Well, that's true. I mean, so self-driving cars, the first thing I think of with self-driving cars is like, well, driven cars don't work that great, right? Like people are pretty bad drivers. So in one sense, it's surprising to me that it's taken so long, right? Like 10 years ago, everybody's like, 2 years we'll have self-driving cars. And 5 years ago, it was like 2 years we'll have self-driving cars. And now it kind of seems farther away than ever, right?
Well, yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that. And the reason why is because as a child, I wanted to be like the Jetsons. I wanted to be flying around, I was that kid that thought we would be up in the sky by now.
I like that you got the Jetson sound effect. I feel like you really nailed that.
That's an entire lifetime of practice.
Yeah, that's their little flying car, right? I know that sound.
I mean, even with robots. I mean, here in Charlotte. I mean, what they're testing these machines on our physical streets. These robots because they want to start this delivery service. And you're driving down the road and it's like, what is that ugly looking thing?
Oh, maybe there's somebody down there I should have on my show.
Right.
Yeah, no, the delivery robot is interesting. I talked to a guy for the show who's doing drone delivery, right? So actually little planes, not helicopters, but these little planes, and they fly over and they drop the package with a little parachute. Again, like kind of Jetsons-esque. So that's a cool one. But yeah, the little four-wheel, so the delivery robots look like a size of a dog or something, and they're a box, and you see them driving down the street there.
Yeah, you do, and it's what's so funny though is that when you look at other drivers on the road, they're all sitting there going like, "What is that?" And because it's so tiny, and we're used to big trucks and making deliveries and stuff, and even our cars are still pretty large these days, but it's tiny.
Well, if that works, it could be a productivity gain, an efficiency gain. It could mean less traffic, less pollution on the streets. Like it seems like a reasonable idea. Weird, but things go from weird to not weird. Every time I'm out, whatever, taking the subway and every single person is looking at their phone, like
Right.
I'm old enough to remember when that would have been weird, right? Like why are all these people staring into their hand?
You're so right about that because I always sit there and say that we somewhere along the line evolution has got to give us another thumb or finger because I mean it's just to get some work done.
Yeah, right. Just or maybe two more eyes so you could look at your phone with two eyes and do work with the other two.
Yeah, but I want the eyes behind my head though, so I can see what's going on behind me.
Well, they sell those glasses, right? I always saw infomercials for those glasses where you could see behind you. That did seem fun.
Oh my God, do you remember that, Jacob? Are you old enough to remember you'd get that in the back of a comic book where they would say you could get these kind of special glasses where you could see around you and all that kind of stuff?
Did you ever order them?
No, because I just my mom wouldn't give me the money. She kept telling me I'm gonna get ripped off, and it's like God, I really wanted a pair of those things.
You're a grown up now. You could do it.
You're right. Well, but I did invest in the Mr. Microphone, and that's why I've had 43 years of radio.
See, Mom?
Yeah. So when you put a podcast like this together, what is it that you're really going in to do? Because you've got to be on a mission and you've got to get by what I call the evil number 7. Evil number 7 is you've got that seventh episode. And once you get past the seventh episode, I think you're on your way to a podcast.
Okay, well, we're on episode, 4 or 5 now, so I'm a little bit scared, but also hopeful. So here's the thing. I feel like we're at this really interesting, exciting moment, basically with technology, right? Where there are all these hard technological problems that people are setting out to solve. And the world is going to look really different in 5 years, in 10 years, right? Just like we were talking about with phones. And so what I hope is people will come and listen to this show and understand how the world is going to look, right? What's it going to mean to have drones and self-driving cars? And also what's it going to take to do those things? Like really get into the like, okay, well, we don't have them now. What do you have to figure out? What has to change? So it's, what do we have to do to make these things happen? And then how is the world going to be different?
Well, see, and you really popped something into my brain here because there's been a big article in the Charlotte Observer here about what does it cost to get a car fully electric when if you're out there driving because you're only going to get 200 miles, and so what is it going to cost? So they uncovered this story about that really it could be maybe $1.25 for a full fill up.
That seems like a good deal.
Yeah, I think
Am I
so
wrong?
too. Yeah, if you buy a $60,000 car.
Yeah. No, I mean, electrical cars also interestingly seem like better cars, right? I'm not like a car guy, but the car guys seem to say like, internal combustion is like a weird, inefficient, way to drive a car. To have the, thousands of explosions inside the car every minute is not what you would do if you were starting with a blank sheet of paper. I'm sure there's a million car guys writing me angry letters right now, but that's my understanding.
Well, speaking of blank sheets of paper, building a business today, being local is not the thing. I swear that it's all about going either national or going global. I mean, you've got to have that kind of approach.
I think that's right. Although, there are a lot of niches, right? Like most of the show is these sort of big ideas. But I also talked, for example, to a guy who runs this business selling ramps for wiener dogs, right?
You're
Which
right.
seems absurd, but he's sold like $30 million in wiener dog ramps. So and through technology, in a way, that is also a technology story, right? He buys Facebook ads. Of course, his business is online, right? You couldn't hang out a shingle in Charlotte or Brooklyn or anywhere and be like, okay, all I got here is wiener dog ramps. But the internet means you can start a little business without that much capital and reach a really targeted audience across a big geographic area. So, like, that's an interesting twist on it. You don't have to be Google.
Well, the importance of that ramp really affected my life because we got one, and that's exactly how my Maltese and my Chinese Crested would get into bed because of that ramp and because of their backs and things. So, yeah, I was very surprised and very proud of that guy for making such a decision like that.
Okay, you're the first customer in the wild I've talked to. Were you pleased with the product?
I still am pleased with the product. Yes, absolutely.
Great. Yeah, we got a Shih Tzu and we lift him up and down off the couch, but he does not get in the bed. His bed is next to our bed.
Now, come on now. They deserve to be in that. There's you can always tell when the dog is aging. They'll start at the end of the bed, but then eventually they make it to the top of the bed with the pillows, and I'm going, uh-oh. That usually means it's almost time. When they start sharing dreams with you, it's almost time.
Wow, sharing dreams. That is a deep bond.
Now, I understand branding, but then at the same time, how do you brand in a modern world where the content is, there's too much of it? We can't back down on the content.
Well, I go on excellent radio programs and I say my podcast is called What's Your Problem? And it's available wherever you can get your podcast. What's your problem?
And then it should be followed with, but wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. It's free and it's short. I'll tell you another good thing about my show. It's only like 20 minutes long. There's all these 3-hour podcasts. Listen to my show in 20 minutes. There'll be a few laughs and you'll learn things.
I'm glad that you brought that up because that's one of the things that I really put a lot of, like pride in is that Charlotte is a 20-minute town. And with you saying that it's 20 minutes, that's exactly what I got out of listening to your podcast. I got to my location. I was fulfilled. I got what I needed. That rush, it made me think. It's everything that I need inside that 20 minutes.
Oh, great. So 20-minute town means like it always takes 20 minutes, basically, wherever you're going.
Oh, yeah, because it's here in the South, there's a church on every corner. It's the same thing with a Lowe's and a Home Depot.
And where else are you going to go but church, Lowe's, or Home Depot, right? That's it.
Well, you got to have a
all
restaurant. You have to have that restaurant too, because once church is over, you got to bolt out of that building.
Right. Maybe a grocery store, and done.
So now, why is it that you talk about the drones being airplanes? I'm not familiar with that.
I hear you, right? I was also surprised by that. So there's this drone delivery company. It's really interesting. I talked to the guy who was one of the co-founders, and they actually started out in sub-Saharan Africa, in Rwanda and Ghana, and they're now making like hundreds of deliveries a day, every day, delivering medical supplies all around these countries. And they've got a couple of pilot programs in the U.S. So their problem is, how do we build this business in the U.S.? And like you, I always thought of drones as those like weird
Yeah.
quadcopters that you see at the park or whatever. But so part of the thing for this business is they need to be able to deliver in all kinds of weather, right? When it's windy, when it's raining.
Mm.
And they figured out that planes are more robust for that. But also, they have this crazy way of takeoff and landing, which are the most, difficult, energy intensive parts. They have this like basically slingshot. So the drone is like maybe the size of a person, right? It's like a little plane. And they have this crazy like I don't know, like a crossbow or a slingshot where the plane just gets slingshot shot up into the air. So it's just immediately in the air.
Damn.
And then landing is even crazier. It's like if you've ever seen a plane land on an aircraft carrier,
Yep.
where there's like a wire that catches the back of the plane. It's basically that, but there's not even a landing deck. The plane is just flying through the air. So I should say it launches off of the slingshot. It goes out. It doesn't land. It just drops the package with a parachute on it, flies back, and then instead of landing, there are these two metal arms that pop up with a wire between them. And the wire catches the plane out of the air. It's really amazing. And these guys who are like, just a couple of guys built it. They went to do this drone business. All the drones were like these crazy $1 million military drones that were not what they needed. So they just built their own thing. It's really cool. It's inspiring what they came up with.
You're onto something here in the way, because I talked with a gentleman that created the Robo, or whatever it's called, the vacuum cleaner that's like and that goes around the house.
Rodney Brooks,
That's
the Roomba guy. He's an interesting guy.
God.
I want to have him on my show.
Dude, you won't have you'll be doing a 3-hour conversation with him. The guy will not stop, because he's he's more than an inventor. What he does is he looks for human laziness, and what can he do to fulfill human laziness.
I guess the robot vacuum is a perfect application of that.
I mean, it's like, and coming out of this lockdown and stuff like that. I mean, I can't imagine all the people that are going to be knocking on your door for this, because because they had the opportunity to say, wait a second, I can do that. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, there's been an incredible explosion of entrepreneurship over the past few years. Just you can see, there's data on new business formation, and it went through the roof. And it'll be exciting to see what comes out of it. I mean, the other thing that happened was I think we realized how much we can do from home, how much we can do differently, right? Like I'm sitting in my closet right now, not even a big closet, which is where I make my podcast. And, it works kind of amazingly. It works.
Well, it's interesting you say that you're out of the closet and stuff like that, because I'm at the School of Broadcasting right now, and that's one of the things that we're talking about today is going to be podcasting, and that really all you have to do is just have the right equipment and go to a room, and it will work. And because and I'm going to ask you, because you've been in the business long enough, we have got a brand new texture in broadcasting. As long as you tell people where you are, because you've got that NPR background, tell them where you are, they accept it.
Say more. Say more about.
Say more. In other words, I really get off on going to Panera Bread and doing a podcast from the Panera Bread parking lot.
Okay, I like it.
As long as I tell people where I am, I took them. And that's all because of NPR. NPR always took me to the jungles. They took me there. They took me here. And so my imagination said, and I accepted it.
Can you do a podcast while you're eating like the bread bowl full of soup? I feel like that's the like high bar.
Oh my God, that would be so cool, because then this way they can hear it in your mouth, the juices and everything.
People hate it when you eat on the radio on a podcast. That's the one thing I have found. They really hate it.
Oh my God, when early day program directors would sit there and say, stop chewing gum while you're on the air.
They weren't wrong.
All right. So being with the podcast, you can obviously do it wherever you are. You were speaking about the drones, and I listened to your podcast. In Uganda and Rwanda, they're dropping off necessities here and there, medications and whatnot. How far are we away from seeing that kind of thing in the United States, where we can get our own deliveries from these drones that are going to be the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this company is called Zipline. They're doing some pilot projects now. In fact, one of them is in North Carolina with a hospital system. Another one's in Arkansas with Walmart. And their problem, the show's called What's Your Problem? Their problem is that the regulatory environment in the US basically makes it harder to have a drone delivery business. Like they've got the technical problem solved, but the regulations in the US are different. And so they have to change their drones or change their business to make it work. I'm going to guess that they will, or somebody will, right? Lots of people are putting lots of money and lots of smarts into it. So I do feel like we'll see drone delivery in, I don't know how long, 5 years, 10 years. I would say definitely, not definitely. I think it'll happen within 10 years.
Wouldn't you like to be a fly on the wall, though, in the way that they've got to be knocking on Amazon's door, or they've got to be they've got to be hooked up to like a Target or something like that, because it's going to take a major corporation to make this thing happen.
That seems reasonable. They're doing this pilot project with Walmart, right? And Walmart, among the sort of old brick and mortar retailers, is maybe the most aggressively trying to become an online company, right? Walmart has spent billions of dollars on acquisitions, and they, you can order stuff from Walmart, and it seems totally reasonable that, say, Walmart could acquire these guys or someone like them. It seems really natural. And we know Amazon's been working on drone delivery for years.
Well, I love the idea that you're talking with real people in the way that they didn't have the business sense, they didn't have the money, but they went out and they worked for it. And that, to me, teaches a new America and a new world that, look, if you've got the dream, get the dream. And the money, go find it. Go find it. Get me some sort of group that's going to invest in it.
I think that's right. And, that sort of engineer, even if you're not an engineer, just like, let's play around, let's build stuff, right? Like the guy from the drone delivery company, he just loves building stuff. He told me a story from when he was a little kid, and there was an assignment at school to make a machine to fling a golf ball. And he built some machine and cranked it so much that it exploded and almost impaled him. But the golf ball went 2 soccer fields, It's that spirit of let's just mess around. I mean, the one other thing is, yes, a drone delivery business is super capital intensive. You have to raise money. But the dog ramp business, you could start for, not a lot of money. You can start a business because of technology. If you have a laptop and an internet connection and you want to hustle, you can start a business. So technology makes it easier and cheaper to start a lot of kinds of businesses. So there's a ton of opportunity out there.
Let's just say that ABC gives podcasters the opportunity to stand in front of the people of Shark Tank. How would you sell your podcast to Mr. Wonderful?
Okay, I like it. So What's Your Problem is a show about what the world is going to be, right? If you listen to What's Your Problem, you'll understand what's coming. You'll hear these inspirational people who are trying to solve problems and do big things. It's funny, it's smart, it's 20 minutes, and you'll understand the world better.
Yeah.
What's your problem?
See, how do you keep it at 20 minutes? Because I'm a production whore. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I will edit things down to where I think I can get it in less than 120 words and still have an impact. Well, what's your secret? What's your secret sauce?
Well, yeah, I mean, the interviews are usually an hour, hour and a half.
Yeah.
I just try and keep the really good parts, right? And get rid of everything else. And, do a little bit of writing. I mean, this is kind of inside baseball, but right, when you're having a conversation, it can kind of wind around. And if there's a part where it takes you and the guest 5 minutes to figure something out, and I can just come in and say a sentence to say the thing it took us 5 minutes to say, I'll do that. That helps.
Yeah, because you really do come into the show smart. And I mean that as a listener and as a broadcaster, because I can tell that you show prep and you really do put yourself into it. And when it comes to life, you put it in that natural form.
Well, it's very kind of you to say. Thank you.
But to get there, that took years. How long you been doing it, dude?
I've been a journalist for 20 years.
See?
Been doing radio and podcasts for 12. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
What did they say? What did they say to you when you first started podcasting? Because people in the radio business kind of looked at me and go, "Oh, nice hobby, dude." But then now look at what it's doing now.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of so I started podcasting in 2010, right? When it was definitely a fringy thing. And I was at NPR at the time, and it was definitely off to the side. It wasn't like if you wanted to be a star there, you weren't making podcasts. And I liked being off to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody kind of left us alone. We were just like the weirdos off in the corner, and we got to be weird, and we got to do what we wanted. And that's always what I've enjoyed. So it was a good fit for me. In a way, getting bigger makes it harder, right? I just want to keep being a weirdo and making dumb jokes.
Yeah, it is. It's like being a nerd. And the thing is, people will accept it.
It's a lot like being a nerd for me. In fact, it is being a nerd.
So now, one of the things we talked about in class the other day was you've got to find your voice. When did you know that you found your voice in podcasting?
That's a great question. I was a newspaper reporter before I got to podcasting. And, you know, newspapers are pretty straight, right? Like you try and figure something out and you try and say it in the most clear, straightforward way possible, which is fine. But like, I wasn't, it wasn't that fun for me. I was competent as a radio reporter, but I wasn't like special, or excuse me, as a newspaper reporter, but I wasn't like special. And so it was getting to podcasting where I really felt like I found my voice. I went to this show, Planet Money, where there were a lot of
Yeah.
people who, like me, were like, nerds who like to figure things out and make jokes, basically. And so I kind of lucked into a crew that really allowed me to, be me and do work, which is a really fortunate thing, right? I got really lucky to be at that place at that time. So I'm grateful for that.
Wow. Jacob, I could talk to you all day, man. You got to come back to this show so we can continue this story.
Great. Well, I'll let you know after I get past episode 7. I'm nervous.
Yeah, that's
now,
right.
but
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
talk about
Evil
it when
number
we're on the other
7.
side.
Evil number
Okay.
7, dude. You be brilliant today, okay?
Yeah, you too. Thanks.